What the fuck is a reboot?
A reboot, boys, is when Hollywood wants to make a lot of money without the hassle of creating a new movie. So they take an old movie and change just enough to make you pay for the same shit all over again.
Hello and welcome to the first inaugural episode of Frame for Frame. I'm one of the co-hosts, Tom Garcia, aka Yumper, if you know me from Twitter, but I'm not a long guy on Twitter. And I'm with my co-host for this journey, my man Michael Cotton, aka Cubes fan. That's Cotton. Got a little croak in my throat there. From the Sun Ranto universe and the Bleacher Bunch, my man. How are you today? And are you ready to get this rolling?
Oh, absolutely. I've been looking forward to this. You and I had this idea, what, a month and a half ago?
Yes, over a month ago.
And we've just been working on trying to get everything together. So I'm really excited about, finally recording for the first time. And, for everybody out there who doesn't know what we're doing here, we're watching an original movie and then the reboot or remake or whatever they call it. And we're going to discuss them both. And I have been writing a column for Sadistic Penguins called You're Not Going to Like This. And one thing we know about Yumper is he hates reboots. He hates remakes. And so I talked him into doing a show about the thing that he hates.
Just to torture me. This is like when Tony wants me to talk about Scarface. So this is my living hell.
Which, by the way, is a remake.
Yes.
We probably won't be watching that one though, right?
Double negative, yeah. But there are so many remakes in Hollywood. It seems like they're running out of original ideas in this landscape. It's more about the money that's coming in, so they're just rehashing old ideas that worked and, for most part, ruining them. So we're going to go through some classic films, some maybe more modern films as well, that have been rebooted or remade, and then see how they match up against each other and should have they been remade in the first place. Now, I'm going to take my bias out of this. I'm going to go into every film that we go into with an open mind, which I can do. I watched a lot of Will Smith movies and I cannot stand him, but I let that out. But I'm really, really excited to be going through this stuff with you, Cotton. And I love to hear your commentary on anything that relates to your rants and baseball, and I want to hear more of your stuff on movies as well. I love your articles that you've been doing for us.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and like you were saying, these movies, it's funny because you're like, yeah, they're remaking all these things now. Today we have two movies, one from 70 years ago and one from 50 years ago. They've been remaking movies forever. But we weren't quite aware of it, but now we're kind of in that sweet spot where all those 70s, 80s movies that we grew up on are being rebooted and remade. And I don't know, my parents weren't really big into movies and stuff, but it would be interesting to wonder how they were reacting to some of these movies that they saw when they were kids and then they were remade in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, and when you think about it, yes, they've been doing it. How many times has King Kong been remade? Before Peter Jackson, there was a 70s version one, and then you got the one from the 20s, which is stop motion that kind of got everything going for the stop motion monster stuff. And then you have the King Kong versus Godzilla, and then Godzilla himself has been remade God knows how many times. So we have seen it. I think more of my issue with it is that it's been happening way too much recently. Which is more of a recency bias, I guess I have.
Right. It does seem well, and it's one of those things where a lot of these older remakes or whatever were just normal movies, right? But now it's like they're trying to create tent poles. You know, it's like the biggest movie of the season. And then you look and it's like it's a remake. Like, how is that the biggest movie of the season? Like, it used to be that the remakes and reboots and all those things seemed to just be another movie. Like, they would let you know about it, but it wasn't supposed to be, I don't know, the event that they seem to be trying to make them now.
Yeah, and just to give you guys a little like insight on the numbers, just from the 2000s alone. So in 2005 alone, the 2000s saw 19 remakes, the highest for any single in a decade. Another research noted that by the end of 2017, 43 films that year in 2017 were sequels, reboots, or remakes.
Oh my gosh. I didn't realize it was that bad.
Yes, and over a smaller sample frame, a 22 study of the year 2022 of 27 remakes released since 2014 found insights on budget and box office. But again, that's part of a smaller thing showing that they did make money. So this is the driving force behind this. But the fact that we started to say 19 in the decade of the early 2000s, and then we have 43, either a reboot, sequel, or a remake, shows that Hollywood is kind of making more of that going forward. I don't have the stats for this year, but it's just ridiculous that we can go back maybe 8 years and it's already climbing.
Yeah, and it's kind of annoying too. The movies that they choose of, like, they're often choosing movies that were already good or great, and then they remake those, which always seems like such a miss. It's like you're taking a great property and you're trying to retell that story, but if you do anything different to it, people are going to hate it. If you do the exact same thing, people are going to hate it. But ultimately, like you say, it does make them money because they don't really have to. They don't have to pay for a new story. They don't have to pay for. They do a new script or whatever, but they can get by on a lot less of that because nothing's original.
Yeah, and I mean the perfect example would probably be the Star Wars franchise. If the newest Star Wars that came out, the new last three that were the ending three, the first one that came out was basically a rehashing of the first Star Wars movie that was in 1977. And people complaining about it, but they kept going to see it. So it kept making money. So they're going to keep doing it.
Well, and then they complained about that being the exact same. And then the next movie, Rian Johnson directed, and he tried to change things up a lot. And then they all got mad about that too. So then they just went right back to a remake of the original Star Wars.
Yep. It was just basically you could cry about one thing and you cry about it. So sometimes audiences don't know what they want, which can kind of make it hard for Hollywood. But you know what? I'm not giving Hollywood a benefit of a doubt. They've fucking been doing this for almost 200 years. They can think of an original idea. If Stephen King can shit out stories like, when he's high and drunk and whatnot, Hollywood can give better scripts to the person that wants to watch a movie.
Well, and honestly, that's a perfect person to bring into this is Stephen King, because he will actually let people adapt his books and stuff into movies for $1. Mm-hmm. Now, that's if you don't make any money. You can do it once you start to make money or you're going to sell it or something. That's when the Stephen King empire comes in, and then you have to start negotiating or whatever. But he lets that happen because he knows that people out there do have ideas on this. And honestly, a lot of those movies that were Stephen King based movies back in the day weren't very good. And if somebody wanted to remake a movie, do a movie that's not so good. Let's get Maximum Overdrive.
I'll just think about that right now too.
And by the way, I freaking love Maximum Overdrive. I don't know. I've got a soft spot in my heart. I've seen it a ton of times. But I can totally see why people think it's a terrible movie. And maybe you could redo that one, especially now as a horror film based on automated cars. You know what I mean? Because back then it was super sci-fi. These vehicles needed to get fuel, and they didn't actually have computers and crap in them, and it didn't make any sense why they were driving around on their own. But now cars are made to drive around on their own, even when they're not. My car, if I veer too close to the edge, it pulls me back. Like it's assisting me in driving. So that makes that concept way more doable. Maybe not a comet tail, but somehow cars get autonomous because they're all pretty much ready to go.
Yeah,
that would be a great take on it, I think.
The crazy thing is, Joe Hill, who is Stephen King's son, decided he wanted to do a remake of Maximum Overdrive in 2020, and that never came to fruition. But I mean,
there is a movie out there, I believe, called Trucks that I think is based on it. I have never seen it, but I think the original story by Stephen King was called Trucks, and somebody made that movie. But I think it was like a super low budget, just kind of
probably
never made it. You know, it was what are those? It was Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey or something.
So it's like a B movie.
Yeah,
one of those B movies. Yeah, I mean, who knows? They'll probably be coming out. Now, watch, when we get done with this and we're done with doing these shows by next year, there'll be an announcement of Maximum Overdrive coming out. Because you want it to come out.
Yeah, I mean, so like we told people at the beginning, we've been working on this for like a month and a half, going through things. We decided the movies that we wanted to do for this first one. We haven't decided for the next one, but as we're going, I'm like thinking about all the movies that are out right now and how many reboots or remakes or whatever. I mean, I saw the new Superman movie. There was a ton that referenced the 1978 Superman, which I thought was amazing. There's Toxic Avenger is coming out. You know, like a remake. Whoever thought a Tromaville project would get remade as a big budget with, you know, Peter Dinklage, you know, but those things, and that's kind of what we're going to do on this show is sort of pick different things, but it won't be one genre or one era or whatever. It's going to be from all over. Like our movies tonight, 1956 and 1978.
Yes. And that's a great segue into the films we did choose for this. Both are in the sci-fi thriller / horror realm. And it is The Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the 1956 version and the 1978 version, which are pretty highly rated, just looking at the IMDb's and Rotten Tomatoes among themselves. But we're going to get to the, you know, nooks and crannies to see what we really think of them. And we can start off with the 1956 version, which personally I thought is a very good film. But just going into a little backstory, if you have not heard of these films or don't know the whole, you know, plot of it, it's basically people are being replicated and they're basically being replicated by these plants. The 1956 film, for one, I really enjoyed the fact that it was an hour and a half. So it moved very, very gracefully.
Hour 20 minutes. I saw that.
Yes. Moved very, very gracefully. You have some old actors in there that some of them are not as well known as you would say of the Marlon Brandos of the 50s. But again, this movie came out when we were going through the Hollywood was going through the whole sci-fi phase. You went through the Universal monsters in the 30s, and then the 40s. You had like kind of like the end of that era, and then when we got to the 50s and 60s, you started seeing more sci-fi aliens, and this movie is right up there. It has a interesting plot. Like I said, people are being replicated. You get these plot pods that are basically spitting out these human beings when the people fall asleep. Now, this film leaves a lot to the imagination. Where do they come from? How are they taking? What happens to the people after they take them over? Things like that. They give little hints and whatnot. And for a film that only cost in the low, I think 100K, and they only, I believe, spent like $15,000 on special effects. It is done masterfully. This film, to me, didn't have very, very small breaks in it. The story was very, very good, paced very, very well. It had great, great acting from all the actors in the film. I especially like, for one, Dana Whitener, who played Becky Driscoll. She is smoking back in the 50s, man.
Dana, Dana Winter. I will say I watched these movies with my wife, and she is so attractive. I literally looked at my wife. I'm like, wow, that I was not expecting her in this movie. Like, yeah, she was. That woman is beyond attractive. I generally don't comment on, oh, they look good or whatever, but yeah,
and that's,
she was out of this world.
Just jokingly, I'll say stuff like that, but like, to be honest with you, she captivates. Like, every scene she's in, you're not just because of her acting, which is great, but her beauty just resonates, like her aura. And Kevin McCarthy, actually, a good-looking actor in his own right. Like, their chemistry in this film is very, very good. It's very, very watered down, like 50s-ish old time film, but it's not as corny as people would think from those films back in the day.
Right. Yeah. No, and I think you're right. It's like my big thing when I saw her, and great actress, like did an awesome job in her spot, like what she was handling in this movie, because let's face it, this is 1950s and they didn't give women the greatest roles in the world. But she did a really good job with what she had, and then was so amazing. I was like, how do I not know who this woman is? You know what I mean? Like, she looked like she should have been, a Marilyn Monroe type, like a superstar. But and I didn't look into it. I don't know why she, didn't become Marilyn Monroe or that type of person. Maybe it's just because she didn't have blonde hair. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, maybe Liz Taylor took all her spots because she had black hair. But like I said, only $15,000 spent on the special effects for this film. One thing I really, really liked about it is the shots that were used, the cinematography of the film. Very, very great point of view shots that were done. With the limited money that was spent on special effects, they did a really, really good job hiding the cheapness of it. I mean, of course, the pods, when they had the pods, they looked like giant things of pea pods. That's what they reminded me of.
You know what, though? I thought those pods were great. Like, the design of it, yes, they are in our standards in 2025. They're a little bit, dated. But for that era and everything, I was like, those are really good. And when the things were coming out of the pods, I thought they did a great job with them.
Yeah, and like I said, the story ran very, very well. It kept you, like, this movie, when I rewatched it, I forgot how anxious it makes you feel a little bit with what's going on, because I love movies that you can immerse yourself in the character and see, like, what would I do in that situation? And when they're running from, everybody's basically being taken over. They're basically the last two people in this small town when he's telling his story. And you can feel like the tension of, what am I going to do? And although you do know that this person, is in the police office telling another town, telling his story, he survived, but you want to know what happened to everybody else that's with him and going through this with him, and what happened to them. And I love that fact that it opens up with him at the police station. Basically, everybody thinks he's mad, and a psychiatrist comes to talk to him. And while he's telling, he actually sits down and tell a story, and we go back and live through, him coming back to town, having his practice there as a doctor, and then we see all the people changing. I did something that pulled me a little bit, like made me feel uneasy, was the child when he was screaming, "That's not my mother! That's not my mother!" That was maybe it's because I'm a dad, and maybe I don't know if this hit you the same way, but I was just like, "Damn, that kind of hit me a little bit." And I was like, "Wow, it's kind of like, wow, it pulled a little heartstrings there." Did it do the same thing to you?
Yeah, well, I mean, there were a number of things in this movie that got me, and I was watching it with my wife, so and that's why, like, I don't know, I had a woman's perspective on it too, because this is a 1950s movie, right? And the women, there's a lot of stereotypes. Maybe you don't pick them up on them as much if you're a man, but for my wife, she was like, oh my God, like the way that they're treating these women is already bad. So, and just so people know, this is a black and white movie. Yumper is showing some stills there from the movies. And even though it's a sci-fi horror movie, it doesn't start that way. Now, Yumper, you've seen this a number of times. I had never seen it before, so I'm going in cold on this thing. And the first, I don't know, 15 minutes, so like quarter of this movie, 15, 20 minutes, is it's shot like a noir mystery. You know, the doctor comes back to town and they have all this, like all these things are kind of happening. And for some reason they have the doctor, like, they've been waiting for him. He's the hero of the movie, and they've been waiting for him to get back to set things straight somehow. But like, it's all mystery for like the first quarter of this movie until we see our first pod person.
Yeah, it starts off like a noir. It kind of reminded me of a lot like a love story between the two.
Yes.
And that's what you get that feeling at first, but it's not as sappy as the 1950s love stories. Or, I mean, I watched a lot of old films. My wife loves romantic films, so I watched. My mom loves old films. Probably a film that I don't know if you like it, but It's a Wonderful Life is probably one of my favorite films I watch every Christmas, and that's a very sappy film that starts off and it's very long. This one I kind of think it had like the love thing between Becky Driscoll and Kevin McCarthy's character, the doctor. It was playing along, but it kept a good pace to where you were wondering what was going on, because right away when he goes and picks her up, you see the kid run in front of the car and he almost hits him, and the kid being afraid to go to school, and then stuff like that, and everything kind of like gives you like little hints and little bits and pieces, and then it adds on, which I really liked about it.
Yeah, but like you were saying, it doesn't spoon feed you like anything, really. Like, eventually you find out, but it's not this sort of well, maybe they did, but like, you don't see people just stop and like do some exposition to explain the situation. You know, they just kind of like, oh, this is what's happening. But like you said, there's you don't know what's happening to the humans. The bodies, the pod people are showing up, and you don't know what happens to the humans. They don't care. They don't tell you that. They just move on. You don't know where the pods came from. They sort of have an idea that maybe it's, maybe aliens or something, but like, they don't ever tell you. They don't lay it out and just say, this is what's happening, which I think is what you were talking about with that, the anxiety when you're watching it, because you really are like, you get into it and then you're like, where are these things? Where are they coming from? Why are they doing this? You know what I mean? And I love that type of filmmaking. I don't like when they just tell you everything.
Yes. And it's kind of like when, like the argument that me and Tony have on the At the Show podcast, when we argue about he loves the natural, the film. I like the book better. And I think the book, due to the book having so many more details in it, it lets you, the reader, think about what is going on while giving you that extra background, but you can kind of come up with your own feelings about certain things in a more gradual way. And I think this film kind of does the same thing by limiting those details. You kind of come up to your own conclusion and think about why things happen. And it kind of made things even more better for me, enjoyable in terms of watching the film, was because I could come up with what, in my own mind, why was this happening? And I'm pretty sure that's what they wanted people to do, use their imagination to, because that was kind of like the big thing. We got to remember too, these people, this is not too far away from radio shows on the radio that were just sounds and voice actors. So you
Yeah.
have to imagine what was going on. And I love that aspect. It kind of has, we're kind of going towards the way of the TV, and I don't think the TV was prominent. It was out, but it wasn't as prominent in everybody's home as it is now, especially as it is now. But this is something that like let people kind of use their own imagination to figure out what was going on in this story, but not in a bad way, like not in a
Right.
stupid way, more of a creative way.
Well, and I will say, so you mentioned earlier you liked the first part where he's in the jail and the doctor's talking to him and he's completely frazzled. So that's the beginning, and then at the end, it's the same thing. He's back there because he's telling the story throughout the movie. And in the end, he's back in that office, and you see sort of the aftermath, and they call the authorities or whatever. That was a reshoot.
Yes.
So did a little looking into this movie and found out that when it originally came out, it just started with him going back to Santa Mira and going through the whole thing, and then ended with the famous scene at the end where he's yelling, "They're already here. You're next." It scared the producers so much. They were like, "We can't do this to people. We have to add something to it to ease out of that so we don't like completely freak people out." Because this is, I mean, Psycho's not going to come out for another like 5 years, 4 or 5 years. And that's what Alfred Hitchcock was going for. He wanted you to be freaked out. But in 1956, with Invasion of the Body Snatchers, they were like, let's ease up here, guys.
Yeah. And, when I was doing my list of things I liked and disliked, I found that out as well. And it's kind of, even though it was good for the story, and we think about films now that have that, it's kind of a negative on my end too, because you're still kind of playing the safe route. You have this great story, this great concept, you have great actors that will go on to be in this Twilight Zone. I mean, this kind of propelled them to the Twilight Zone, Kevin McCarthy especially. And then you have to do a studio ending and prologue that kind of like made it a little safe. And I'm like, just take risk. You have to take risk as to make things, go or get that trend started. And who knows if they would have left it out, maybe they would have been the trendsetter instead of Hitchcock with his film, A Psycho. This could have been the one that, propelled that. But that was like one of my negatives about it. You also mentioned the stereotypical roles, the gender roles. That was a negative I had. But you have to take into concept too. This is the 50s. So
Exactly. And so it's a product of its time. I agree with you. I thought the pacing in this movie was great. I'm not a huge old movie watching person. And, you give me a black and white movie from the 50s and I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be the way to go. But this one, like we were just talking, it's so like it fills you with the anxiety of not knowing. And it keeps moving. You don't slow down and get any dull spots in this movie. So those, I think we both agree. Those are like the positives. And I agree with you. It would have been better, I think, to go with the original versus the reshoot, because the thing we actually do remember about this is that scene. Like if you play that, or if you talk about this movie or whatever, they're going to show the scene of him standing in the street screaming. Even though they added the other stuff, that's not what you remember in the end. You remember him screaming in the streets that you're next. But yeah, and then with the whole women thing, it's a sign of the times. But with the reshoots, one thing that I did notice, so as we start the movie, there's a woman saying her husband is different, and nobody believes her because the husband seems the same. And then you keep going, and it's like, it seems like mostly women are having this issue. And then you see the kid, like you're talking, thinking his mother is having the issues. And they actually send him home. They're like, oh, don't send him back to his mother. Then go home with grandma and stay. And it's just sort of this not very trusting of the women who ultimately we do find out they are correct. But there is the Capgras delusion is a thing that came out in like 1923. And this is an actual medical thing where people will believe that their family members or somebody have been replaced by an identical person. So the fact that they kept pushing sort of the psychiatry angle and like maybe you just need to, I think people might have been way more cognizant of that in that era because it was still sort of a new, a new diagnosis, So if they knew anything about it, they would be like, oh, okay, I get where this is going. But it was very much, again, sign of the times. Don't trust the women. Don't trust the women. And then in the end, Kevin McCarthy, the doctor, he is now in their position, right? Because nobody believes him. And he's kind of going crazy. But if you look at it sort of in those terms, like he was the guy earlier saying, we don't believe you to all these women. And now he's in the position where he needs these people to believe him and they won't believe him. It's kind of that, it's a nice little twist, to flip that 180 on the main character. And I think if they had gone with the original ending, we wouldn't have gotten that. So I think you were saying it's a plus and a minus, like depending on how you're looking at it.
Yeah, and that's a totally good way of thinking about it. Like, it's like a double-edged sword, man. You can take, it's got its positives and negatives about it, and it's just crazy that this film came out, like you said, almost 70 years ago, 1956. So 70 years next year.
Yeah, they were filming it 70 years ago.
Yeah, and it's iconic in that people still talk about it. I remember when I was watching this film, my mom was asking me, what are you watching? I'm like, oh, Invasion of Body Snatchers. And she's like, oh, I love that one. The original? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, oh, that one's really, really good. And it's still the iconic scene of him saying they're coming for you is still shown. I mean, I've shown it in my 31 Days of Horror as an iconic scene, just in the montage of opening. It's considered one of the greatest sci-fi films of all time, ranked number 9 in 2008. The crazy thing I thought when I was reading about this was they said the director removed the original humor from the film, and let the audiences watch it. Well, during the first test screenings, the audience was laughing at it, the original humor in the film, and he removed it. And when the producers and the studio was watching, and they're like, why aren't they laughing at the movie? They were laughing at the test screenings, and he told them because I removed the original humor. Now, that kind of confused me a little bit because this film doesn't have any humor in it.
No. So did they end up did the producers tell him to put it back in?
I'm guessing he just took it out because when I was looking at this, the removal of the original humorous moments left the kind of tone a little bit bad, and I'm guessing that he just left it in the vision that he had it. Maybe he got pissed off that the production company wanted him to shoot that prologue and epilogue at the end. I don't know, but he didn't include them in here. So when I was reading about humorous parts of it, I was like, yeah, I don't understand why they're doing that, but
yeah, I mean, a lot of times the humor offsets the horror, right? You build up the tension and then you drop it off with a little bit of humor instead of horror, and then you hit them with the horror. That's kind of a bit of like how they like to put these things together sometimes. So it's interesting that he would just pull that out completely.
Yeah, and I talked about this with Tony yesterday. I think the new film that came out, I don't know if you've seen it, Weapons, does that. It has like that thriller anxiety that gets you, and then it hits you with the humor to kind of offset it to keep the pace going very well. The same thing can be said about the remake of the film series It, or the that with the newer characters they have, and even in the original series, they have like those little spots where you Tim Curry doing "Kiss Me, Fat Boy" during scary parts, or
Yeah.
they have the character of Eddie in the newer film that when something's happened to him, he's like, "What the f?" when something's puking on him. So, like little humor stuff like that is done very well, and I think they kind of missed the boat on this one. They would have put that in here. That could have been a trendsetter for them as well.
Yeah, it really could have. And now that you say that, it is amazing. I don't think I even noticed. Now that you say it, I'm like, yeah, there's not laughter in this. There's not like light stuff. And yet I didn't get the feel. Like I didn't feel like it was too dark or too dour, during the whole thing. Like it seemed, I guess it just seemed normal. I guess when you do something well enough, you can get over those things and people won't even notice, like, could it have been better? Maybe they would have had a few things in there that would make you laugh, but, however he managed to pull that out and still keep it on the trajectory and as good as it is pretty surprising.
Yeah, and it just shows like the minimalist, sometimes minimal product is good. You don't need constant retouching. You need $100 million worth of CGI in a film. You don't need all these extra characters blocking up the story and ruining the plot. Sometimes keep it simple. Stupid kiss works out very, very well, and this film does a great job at that. But like we were talking off air about this film also has a more political impact, or a kind of a shining a light on what was going on in the 50s and 60s, and that's McCarthyism.
Yeah. Well, and here's something I found pretty interesting. And everybody mentions the McCarthyism, right? Because the idea was that the pod people, by the way, talk about influential. We still use the term pod people from this movie. And I don't even think it's in the movie. I think people just started to say that about the movie, and then we ended up using it still to this day. But yeah, so the pod people are in the idea of McCarthyism. They're becoming communists. They have no emotions. They don't want for things. They are a hive mind, right? And they're all working together. And they say something about there's no love, there's no hate, there's no, right? Well, that all came out, like that's the big scare about communism, is that everyone will just become the same. That's the idea. But on the flip side, so that's like the conservative take, is that this is a horror movie about becoming communist. On the flip side, I saw that liberals were saying the exact same thing, only it was the conservative side all getting rid of, in this hive mind, going after, like not thinking for themselves and just following what they're told, which was, the McCarthyism and, the fascism we had just come out of with like, Nazi soldiers saying, I'm just following orders, right? So that was sort of the liberal take on it. They both loved it and claimed it, which is probably one of the reasons that it did so well.
Yeah, and it's very hard, and especially in today's climate, to kind of cater to both sides. And again, I think the minimalist approach to it leaves it open-ended to interpretation, does that. It totally does that, to have, you can make your own interpretation of the film in a good way. When I say in a good way, I'm saying like a film that makes it be creative. Like, okay, this is what I draw from it. Not a film that gives you just stupid ideas. Like Steven Spielberg's AI. That's a film that gives you stupid ideas.
Right.
Something like that's more creative and inspiring. And this film kind of does that for you.
Well, the artist always puts out their art. And once it's out, they have an intention for it. But once it's out, it becomes everybody's thing. And then they bring their own personal biases and experiences and all of it to the art. Now, I think there's probably some people out there that would think if the art is strong enough, you can't bring yourself to the piece as much, right? It makes its statement and it is a thing and everyone knows what it is. But then I think there's the other side of it that's like, if you really want people to connect and, love your art when it is open-ended and they can bring themselves to that art, then they become more invested in it, And so, and I think there's benefits and negatives maybe to both. But this one clearly, like you said, it came on it didn't give us too much, left things open-ended. Even in the end, we don't know whether or not they were able to stop the pod people or not. Like, we're not given that ending. So it's open-ended, and we were able to bring our own fears into it and our own beliefs into the movie. I thought it was excellently done. And in my opinion, I think like yours, you want that to be the end thing. People have brought their own things into it so that then they can have conversations.
Yeah. And the crazy thing too, Cotton, is that this film, like we said, is an hour and 20 minutes. If you take out the prologue and the epilogue, it's 80 minutes, which about is an hour and 20. And you take that out, it could be closer to the 70 to 60 minute range, 65 minute range.
It's amazing that he was able to get all of this into this short movie.
Yes, and it was shot in 19 days with 6-day work weeks.
Wow.
That's
impressive.
Yeah, and Kevin McCarthy, he runs a lot in this film. He said he ran so much he was getting Charlie horses from dehydration. Which is, I can see him because when I was reading this, I was like, how much does he run? Then I rewatched. I'm like, oh yeah, he runs a lot at the end. They're running a lot.
Oh yeah, like the last 20 minutes is just running.
Yeah, him just running. It also gives you like I like how the character outwits the pod people. When they're hiding in the mine, they're hiding underneath the boards that they're running over. I thought that was kind of cool. It did make me laugh though when he was stabbing the fake pods. How it looked like cardboard.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the 50s. I said limited budget, but I think it was done. It's done a great job. And then you kind of like I said, most of these actors went on to be in the Twilight Zone. It kind of was like the incubator for the Twilight Zone stories going forward, which Rod Serling kind of capitalized on. And even Don Siegel, who directed this film, directed 2 episodes of The Twilight Zone. But it kind of gives you like pre-Twilight Zone era and then, gradually influential going forward. And I mean, when I say influential, this film not only has been remade, which is what we're going to talk about in a couple minutes, but it's been parodied in television shows, for comedy shows. I mean, it's been parodied in Aqua Teen Hunger Force, which is an animation comedy show.
This movie has spawned so much from it. Yes, we are about to talk about the 1978 remake, and we're talking about that because it is the remake. Nobody's hiding it. It is that. But Invasion of the Body Snatchers has been done 1,000 times in all different ways with different names, and different characters and different situations, but it is still that same basic story. And the one that I started thinking about that I watched somewhat recently, The World's End with Simon Pegg. Go back and watch that movie. That is an Invasion of the Body Snatchers movie. It's just the funny version.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. You could even say, more than leaning Dawn of the Dead, but like the Dawn of the Dead, even the Night of the Living Dead, even though they're more zombie based, they kind of had some pull from everybody's turning into this. And what we're gonna do when they're, what we're gonna do when we're trapped and stuff like that. Even though they give it more emphasis on, you can kind of tell who's who.
Yeah.
But they had I remember in the 90s they had a film called The Puppet Masters with Donald Sutherland in it.
Yeah.
So it kind of had the same concept. You have the Outer Limits. You had Body Bags with that John Carpenter directed, which fought like the 5 stories, and one of the stories was aliens basically taking over people's brains through hair transplants.
John Carpenter, The Thing.
Yes,
I mean, The Thing was a remake of The Thing from outer space, but it was a different version. But yeah, it was basically The Thing was becoming the people in there, and they didn't know who to trust.
Yeah, so another great example there. Like, it's inspired so many things going forward, which brings us to the 1978 version, my friend.
Yeah. Okay, so they got the idea 20 years later to redo this movie. In an actual remake, they're going to go through, we're going to have the same characters. It's all just going to be set in San Francisco instead of Santa Mira. And they make little changes that are odd to the characters, but I think it fits the time. The doctor's character from 1956 is Donald Sutherland, and he is like a food inspector.
Yeah, he works for the health administration.
Yeah, and they don't play that up enough because really it does make more sense that he would be brought into this if a bunch of people are having a thing, because they would be trying to figure out, well, what's going on? They might ask the food inspector, like, hey, have you seen anything weird? Like, they wouldn't just ask the regular doctor maybe, but he's a totally different sort of character. The first guy was a hero. He's a little bit more of the anti-hero. Now, the female role is now Elizabeth Driscoll, and instead of just being whatever, a single socialite, whatever, she's a lab scientist, right? So I think they realized, yes, the times have changed, and they gave her a much stronger personal role in this movie. And then her and Donald Sutherland they were colleagues, not really love interests. You do get the idea that Donald Sutherland's character would like to get with her, but she has like a fiance or a husband or whatever, and they aren't, that doesn't come into it. Right. Mm-hmm. But so it starts much differently though. Whereas the other one just starts right in with that sort of noir mystery, wondering what's happening. The 78 version starts with like in space and stuff coming down. And then you see it getting into the water system and then like flowers growing and stuff. And it's not a person telling you exactly what's happening, but it's spoon feeding you way more than the 56 version, right? You kind of get right away, okay, something has come from space and it's creating these flowers or whatever. And then you get into the movie proper, and that ultimately becomes, they figure out, yeah, these flowers are doing this. So that was quite a bit different. And then it's shot darker, right? It's that 1978, the 1970s were, the 1970s were, films are very dark, right? And it's San Francisco, 1970, everything's dirty, it's dark, it's gritty. So that's quite a bit different. And then you get Jeff Goldblum pops up in this as the friend Leonard Nimoy. Now, Leonard Nimoy's character as the psychiatrist, but they make him a world famous author of a book, and he has a much bigger role in this movie. And I personally I don't like the guy. I like Donald Sutherland. I liked Elizabeth Driscoll, and I don't have the actress's name there on, unfortunately.
I can get it looked up.
Yeah, but then Leonard and Jeff Goldblum, everybody is like a likable character, and then you get Leonard Nimoy comes in, and he is unlikable, and that had to have been great for him. right? He's been at this point. He's been Spock for, known as Spock for how many ever years. He did a bunch of other films and stuff, but to be able to come in and just be this creepy guy, I think he probably loved.
Yeah, he did that song Frodo Baggins or something like that, didn't he? Her name is Brooke Adams, and she's actually the wife of Tony Shalhoub, who plays Monk.
Oh, I didn't realize that. But yeah, so the movie goes on. The movie is very similar to the 1956 story-wise. And then it's all sort of the details of it that change, right? Like the minute details. And then they take a lot longer. So this movie clocks in at like 2 hours.
Yeah, hour and 56 minutes.
Yeah. So it's noticeable. I definitely noticed the extra 40 minutes in this movie, just based on some of the different things that they did. I thought the acting was done well. Like the whole Leonard Nimoy thing. Once I saw him, I was like, I don't know if I want to, like, come on. But he's so good in it. Like, I thought the acting actually was really good. There's a lot to like about this movie, but it's just a bit longer, and the changes in this story from the original were very minor. So there wasn't,
Yeah, they kept to the original plot and emphasis on plot. They kept it, and they just expanded from it. They didn't really completely destroy it and remake a new one. This is a true remake, a true, but with our own ideas fleshed in. But it does pay homage to the original story, to the point where even Kevin McCarthy's in this film as the running man, screaming his line from the famous first film, and then he gets hit by a car and dies, which I thought was kind of hilarious.
Well, that's amazing, because that was supposed to be the end of the movie, was him screaming and getting hit by a car. He wasn't supposed to die, but he was supposed to yell that and get hit by a car. That's amazing. What a great cameo idea.
Yeah. One thing that did irritate me about Leonard Nimoy's character was even when I remember watching this for the first time, I'm like, why the hell does he wear that leather thing on his hand? And when I first saw this movie, I'm like, man, there has to be, maybe there's like something growing out of it. Maybe there's like a plant on it, another fucking eye. I don't know. And then they never explain it, like why he has that leather thing on his hand. And then I had to look it up. And
I did the exact same thing, Yumper. I as soon as the movie was over, I looked up, why does Leonard Nimoy have this thing on his hand?
And it's because he just wanted to add mystique to the role. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. Some things that I thought that were negatives for me just in this film, to go with a little bit of negativity. The glove, of course, distracted me.
The glove.
But not enough Jeff Goldblum in this film. Not enough Jeff Goldblum. I love Jeff Goldblum. A positive, though, is Donald Sutherland, to me, out Jeff Goldblum in this film by being a weird, strange character. Now, Jeff Goldblum is known for being those exotic, unique, introvert to characters that are just rambling on. And he does that in this film. And I think Jeff Goldblum pretty much plays the same kind of role in every film he's in.
Yeah.
But Donald Sutherland is totally like, he's a weird guy. His interactions with Elizabeth Brooke Adams, like he's like always like smiling kind of weird, and like, man, he's really has some social problems. That's what my take was from it. But I mean, he does a great job, don't get me wrong. I think he's excellent. But just like when they go through the slow burn, and this film does have a slow burn, which I think is a kind of a negative. I know why they do it, but I think it's more of a slower burn than needed for this film, for the story. I just felt like some parts of Donald Sutherland's acting, or his character in general, were like, wow, he was not, like you said, he wasn't as likable as the Kevin McCarthy character.
No, he wasn't. But I think you're right. I mean, I think it was an acting choice. He was, whereas the Kevin McCarthy character was the town doctor and everybody loved him, and he was set up as the hero for that whole movie. The Donald Sutherland character was set up as, part of the government, part of like, he's the food inspector and he's in there bugging people, like you're not really supposed to like him. And I think he made that clear, like, but then you almost respect him. You're like, I don't want to hang out with this dude, but I get where he's coming from. Like, he did a really good job of portraying that person that I think we all know that, like, I don't really want to hang out with this person, but I would like them to be doing that job that they're doing.
Yeah, especially when he finds that rat turd in the French restaurant and they throw a bottle of cheap wine at his car, and he drives around with a broken windshield for the whole film, which I thought was hilarious.
And that was so weird. Like, they had the one sous chef is in there sneaking away in that whole scene. He's sneaking away, and then you see him later outside, but they made it seem as if that guy was going to be something in this movie.
Yeah,
right.
Some dude that just got payback for throwing a bottle.
Yeah, well, I almost thought like we were going to find out that he put the rat poop in the thing, like, because he was angry or something, and that's why he was sneaking away. But yeah, they just let that thing drop. Never heard from the guy again.
Well, if you want to go even more deeper in that, like, stuff that was like, what the hell? Robert Duvall's in this film in the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I thought I totally like, and the crazy thing is, like, I've seen this film like a lot of times. I totally forgot he was in this film. And then I was thinking, like, when I saw him, he's in the beginning, he's a priest on a swing. I'm like, holy shit, does Robert Duvall have any real parts in this film? Like, is he a character? I'm like, I can't remember anything he does in this film. And he doesn't. He's just there to swing and look at the lady telling the kids to pick the pods.
Yeah. And I had the exact same thought. Like, and I had never seen this movie before either. So I was going in cold, and Robert Duvall swinging on the swing as a priest. And I was like, I didn't know Robert Duvall was in this. Well, there's a reason I didn't know, because that's the only thing he does. I don't know why he was there.
It's kind of like when in Saturday Night Fever, when John Travolta's walking through those crowd of people and Sylvester Stallone just randomly appears and looks at him.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, but I guess that one's more iconic than just, having a priest swing on a swing.
Yeah.
One cameo I did like, though, was Jerry Garcia just randomly playing the banjo, which I like.
I did not see that one. I didn't realize.
Yeah,
see, now I'm going to go watch it again just so I can see Jerry Garcia playing the banjo, which makes sense. San Francisco, 1978.
It's so random. I was looking at my dislikes, and when you were talking about Sutherland, I put Sutherland's hair is kind of ridiculous. I get it was the 70s, but that perm.
Oh my God, yeah. It was bad. It did not look good at all.
When his duplicate was being made, when he was sleeping, and his perm was on top, I started laughing.
And it was clearly fake.
Yeah. I'm like, man, his perm was ridiculous. That duplicate had to get that perm right.
Well, that's the thing in this movie. So we're 20 some years on, and they have much better, or they should have much better, special effects. They do the whole thing at the beginning, which is kind of cool, special effectsy stuff with the things coming down the seeds. But then when they actually do the pods and stuff, I don't know. I wasn't that impressed. Like, it was basically the same, very similar to the 1956. They didn't do a lot to zhuzh it up at all,
Yeah. They didn't. Crazy thing about Sutherland, I just read, I had this trivia point that I wanted to point to, was he was hit by a Volkswagen Beetle during this film. And when he fell onto the windshield, the shocked driver recognized him saying, "Oh God, not you."
Oh no.
Yeah, so, which I thought was pretty hilarious. And I didn't know that I just read this right now. Don Siegel, who did the original directing, was actually the cab driver that drives them to when he's saying he's taking them to the airport. That was him.
Yeah. Oh,
And,
I did. Yeah, I did not realize that.
and he was partially blind.
Nice. So, yeah. Okay. So, what did you think about the sort of the transformations? I don't know. I guess we've kind of talked about this movie. It ends much scarier, I guess, than the first one with Donald Sutherland's character screaming at the who was it? Veronica Cartwright played Nancy Belichick. She just disappears, and you get this feeling that it's been maybe a few weeks, and then he sees her, and she hasn't turned into a pod person, and he has, and it's, I don't know, it kind of blew my mind. I didn't know what they were doing at the end there. I didn't know if he was faking being a pod person.
Yeah, I think that was like really, really done well, because after he goes and destroys the warehouse by knocking down the lights on it, and runs away. They kind of cut to like the next. They never say how long it is or whatnot, and he's going back. And when I first initially saw this film, I was like, he has to adapt. I mean, what the hell else is he going to do? It's kind of like it's everywhere, so you have to basically survive on your own.
Got to hide in plain sight.
Yeah, so they're kind of making it seem that way with him doing it. I like how they had the character. He was still showing somewhat emotion. It looked like he was just following in line. He had his own thoughts, but like when they were walking out to the elevator, how he got in line to make it seem like he was just trying to follow along to get out.
Yeah.
And he was still looking, even when before he sees her and she approaches him, he's looking around like he's, still surveying the area to make sure he's okay. And then when he sees her, he just stares at her and she starts talking to him, and he does the scream, which made me laugh.
Yeah.
If you ever watch Aqua Teen Hunger Force, the character of Carl does the same thing. He gets the duplicate, and he does a scream, which always made me laugh. But yeah, I mean, that scene is iconic in itself. It's been again parodied, like I just said in that. But I do like the build up to that. I thought it was shot very, very well. How they kept you thinking, like, and guessing what was going to happen.
Yeah, no, it was, and then when he did it, it was like, oh, it was almost not. It was almost like sad, like, he isn't faking it. Like he did get taken, but then you see Veronica Cartwright's character pop up, and you see that she hasn't been taken, and it's almost worse. It's like, oh, you could make it, but then of course he points her out, and you know that she's not going to make it.
Yeah, and the great thing about it is her terror on her face. Like, from what I was reading, that she did not know he was going to make that sound. So
probably nobody did.
Yeah, so it freaked her out. So her horror in the film is real. Speaking of McCarthy, before we said that he had a cameo in this. I guess when he was filming this scene for this, when he was running away, he was rehearsing. And a homeless man saw him and is like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm doing this. I was in the original." And he's like, "The first one was better." That's it.
Even as they're filming it.
Yeah. Which I thought was hilarious. But
well, I mean, honestly, that's perfect segue into the third part of the show, where we rate these. And obviously we can't rate them the exact same, right?
No.
The original movie, we're just going to say whether we think it's a good movie and if we recommend it. But then we're going to, go put those against the remake and kind of go back and forth, a little verses. And then we will rate the remake. And I have a few, I'm going to read them off here. So these are going to be our values here, the judgments. It can be a reboot, and if it's a reboot, that's top. That means it's worthy of being a movie and even building off of that movie if you want, right? So because that's what a reboot is supposed to do. It's supposed to restart a movie and be good enough that you can move on from there and not worry about the old movies. A remake, it's fine. They redid the movie, they redid the thing. You may like it, you may not. Like it's sort of a meh, right? We're also going to have a rename because some of these movies I think that we'll get to don't even make sense that they're a remake. Like they have the same name, but then you watch the movie and you're like, this is not the same movie in any way. Like all they did was sort of keep the name. So that's going to be sort of the mid between the remake and the bottom one is going to be renamed because that could be a good movie. And maybe you just need to rename it something else so that people will go into it not expecting a RoboCop or something, you know?
Yeah.
And then the lowest level is going to be repress. Repress. Just never think of this film again. Just don't worry about it. Shouldn't have been made, and we shouldn't have watched it, and we probably don't ever want to watch it again. Those are our four categories for this. So, do you have specific things that you want to talk about? The one versus the other? I mean, I do have a couple of things too.
Yeah, so I can start off with just the whole fleshing out of the plot. The beginning of this film has a kind of like a space kind of showing of like it's in space.
Yeah, you're talking about the 1978.
I'm sorry, the 1978 film has a space opening, which kind of shows that where these things are coming from. It has more of a fleshed out idea of how they're attaching to the plants and growing out with these flowers. They kind of look like Brussels sprouts, to be honest with you, when they attach. So I did like that aspect that it showed kind of how they attach to the plants and grow from there. And when Brooke Adams' character finds one and she puts it in water, she notices that it's growing roots right away. She talks about that to her fiance at the time. I did like that. It added that extra little sense of detail to kind of help bridge the gap between if you saw the original and then get the whole thing from it. Now, it doesn't give you the complete answers. We don't know if they came from a certain planet or whatnot. But it gives you a little bit more detail on where these things are from. They're not natural from this planet.
Right. That's interesting because I actually do not like that part of it. Like when I was and I had never seen either one of these. So I watched the 56 first, and the opening was a little took me a second to get into it because they were in the police and he was raving and all that stuff. But I liked that opening better than the 1978 because I felt like the 1978 version just tells you right off the bat, this is what's happening. These things are coming down. They're growing. We already know the name of the movie is Invasion of the Body Snatchers. We probably know a lot about it, pod people, all that stuff. So you're not really hiding that from them at this point. So you just show them. But I preferred the first one where they just pop in, and that movie could have been anything. 15 minutes into that movie, it could have gone to a completely different place that was just a normal, like, mystery noir detective movie, but it didn't. It went and became the sci-fi horror movie. And I liked that sort of ambiguity, and what you've talked about a lot on this show is how spare it was. So we got to sort of wonder before we actually found out. And I felt like the 78 version sort of took that away from me.
Yeah, see, I can totally see where you're coming from, but I do think, like you said, again, this is a different time in the 70s. Everybody knew this was a remake.
Right.
So they kind of, I guess the writers kind of figured you're going into it to see the remake of, the original, which is why I think they kind of expanded upon it. what about the whole process of becoming a pod? They never, and the original, they basically say when you go to sleep, and they kind of like show that when Jack is, I think his name is Jack. His friend is turning into
Jack Belichick.
Yeah, he's turning into he cuts his hand and it shows up on the body they find in the on the pool table. Right. And this one, it kind of shows when Donald Sutherland's character is sleeping, you see the plant actually touch him and his eyes grow back, and you see the actual, even though it was kind of disgusting, the birthing part, but yeah, it shows like more of a detail of how they're actually duplicating them.
Yeah, so it was very similar plot wise, and the 1978 version seemed much more the special effects for what they could do was much better in that because they could make those filaments sort of reach out and move around people and stuff, and it did fill in a lot of those gaps. I totally agree with you. The 56 movie, we were wondering, what happened to the bodies? Where did these things go? And the 78 movie fills those gaps in. I actually did like that. It was the right amount in that situation to show us, the bodies just sort of disintegrate after, but you see that they're touching. Whereas in the first one, that's what the biggest confusion of that first movie for me was, well, how do the pods know which ones that they're replacing and where do the bodies go and all that? Because they don't touch and they're not even in the same room a lot of times. So I do believe the 78 version did that better.
Yeah, especially the part where, the father has the pod of her in the basement and she's sleeping up in her room. That part, like in the original, was like, it kind of left you open to how they're doing it. I thought they were telepathic. That's the way I took it. Yeah. Until I saw the newer one for the first time. So I do like it close some gaps on it, which I guess can be a hit or miss. And if you think of it the way you thought, which I think is a good way to think of it.
Well, I that bit of it, the pod part and how they became the people, I thought they actually did a really good explanation of that. I didn't think it was overly heavy-handed or anything.
Yeah, and the parts where the bodies go. Kevin McCarthy mentions in the original, he thinks they disintegrate. We never see it happen, but in this film we do with the character of Brooke Adams. Her character disintegrates, which I thought was really cool. And Donald Sutherland's when it happens makes me laugh. But and
then of course the gratuitous nudity for no reason.
Yes, I was about to say that
too. She shows up immediately afterwards naked, and it's not like they do put her behind tall grass and stuff, so it's not like a full-on view of her naked. But I don't know. I feel like the other ones came out clothed.
No, they wore nude, but they used bubbles on their body parts to make it seem like they were like foaming, which is a cool part. Now, I didn't have so much trouble with her when she was first released from the pod. When she first got out, okay, she's nude. All right. But the fact that she stays nude. That she walks into the damn plant like naked as hell, as my son would say, naked as a jaybird, walks into the plant like naked as hell and then does it. I'm like, come on, man. I mean, you just want to see Brooke Adams nude. I get it. But I'm not a prude, but it kind of took a little bit away from me. That, and then some of the griminess of the 78 film, I thought was kind of unnecessary, which plays into the length. I think the 78 film was a little longer than it needed to be. Yeah. Like the mud bath part. I mean, that it just looked dirty in there. Like, who the hell would want to go there for one? Apparently, Jack and his wife, I guess, owned it. They never really explained it, or she worked there. But like that kind of like was like, I don't understand like the whole concept of this. It kind of dragged on for a little bit there, which I didn't like.
They definitely spent a little bit too much time there. They spent too much time in the bookstore. Yeah, introducing Leonard Nimoy's character. they dragged a few of those things out. They spent too much time of Donald Sutherland trying to call for help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those were the issues for me there too. I don't mind the griminess because that is sort of the 1970s film thing. It didn't. I don't know. It definitely was a different feel, right? Because the 1950s movie was very clean and it was suburban America, sort of little white town outside of everywhere. And then you move it to San Francisco and it's big city, grimy and dirty and, dangerous, that's so I don't know. I didn't bump up against the griminess quite as much, but I totally agree with you on the length of that scene in the mud bath and all of that stuff.
Yeah, and less is more, in my opinion. I do like the practical effects. I'm a huge fan of practical effects. But of course, this is the 70s, and I think of the Hammer films. When they showed blood, it looked like red jelly. Yeah. This film, kind of the aging of the blood is not great, in my opinion, because it looks very fake, which I thought kind of took away a little bit from the seriousness of what you're looking at. A little bit for me, and that's just me being a little bit picky in the 1978 film. As regards to the 1950s film, they had a limited budget, but they did a lot with less is more there. I just think that it didn't. Maybe it was a choice at the time. That's why it looked. And a lot of the movies back then did certain aspects of human fluids look differently. But the pod bodies look better in the 1978 film, which they should have. They had more. It's more updated than they did in the 50s. I just wish the whole blood of the pods and then like the squishiness looked different. Like I made fun of how when Kevin McCarthy stabs his fake, body, it's like cardboard, and in this one it's like paper mache when Donald Sutherland hits the guy with the hoe. It made me laugh. One thing that the 78 version I think outdoes in the 1950s version is the dog man.
Oh my god,
it's so random.
We absolutely have to talk about dog man. This was, for one, the 1956 movie. We had no idea how these pod people were being formed. In the 1978, you get the filaments going on them, and so they're pulling from the actual body and building. And at one point during this movie, you see the main characters going through a park, and there is a homeless guy and his dog. And they are both asleep, and the pods have them. There's the filaments are over both of them. And then what is it, like 10 minutes later, you see a dog with that man's face run through the screen.
Yeah, and it's like, I guess the pods can mess up too. I don't know.
Yeah, the pods didn't realize that they had two separate organisms, and so they just created the pod person for whatever it was. But it's so funny. They went with dog with man head versus man with like dog head or something. Like they could have done different things, but it runs through that scene. I can imagine on a big screen, if you're sitting there, you have no idea, that would probably make everybody jump. I think that was I think it was supposed to be a jump scare, but it was, at least now it's a jump laugh.
Yeah, it cracked me up. I was laughing. My wife was just like, what the hell was that when she saw it, which made me laugh even more. I do think the character. One of the things I did notice a difference if we're talking about main characters, and I think Kevin McCarthy and Donald Sutherland in their own right did a great job in playing their character as the lead in certain ways and different aspects, which make them totally different in a good way. I thought Jeff Goldblum's Jack and the Jack from the original film also was kind of different, although I would more lean towards the Jeff Goldblum character because he had a little bit more personality than King Donovan did in his character.
Right.
As the same with his wife. who was played by Carolyn Jones, who's from the Addams Family. I thought Veronica Cartwright was excellent, is a more superior version. But when speaking of the two versions, I think Dana Winter was way better than Brooke Adams. I think, although Dana Winter did play the damsel in distress, she was more, I would say she had more, would you say more heroism in her than the character of Brooke Adams, meaning that she wasn't just, she actually did something more, like she helped Kevin McCarthy when they tried to attack them in the doctor's office. She stabbed the guy in the neck with the shot to kill him, will knock him out. While Brooke Adams kind of seemed like she was like weak and couldn't do anything. Both characters eventually fall asleep, but
that's actually a really interesting point that you're bringing up there. Is that the Winter character from 56 was treated at the beginning of that movie as like, oh, just a hysterical female sort of thing. But you see her character throughout the movie become a hero. And then when she turns into a pod person, that is a much more, that's a bigger turn, right? That's more devastating to the person watching when she turns. Because you're like, no, she was the hero. You honestly think in that movie that the doctor might turn and she won't. You know, like you kind of, because, you know, I mean, 2025, we know how these things work. Not everybody's going to make it and whatever, but you kind of think, oh, is she maybe like a proto final girl, you know? But then she ends up turning and it's almost like, oh, well, that's even worse than the doctor turning because she was likable throughout this and was very empathetic to all the women and were very trusting of everybody, wanted to find the answers and wasn't just blowing them off like the doctor was. But then in the 1978 version, you make her a scientist. She is an educated professional. But then you honestly take a lot of her action and motivation and stuff away. And then you actually see her as a half a pod person at one point. And then later when she turns, it's not as big a deal. You know what I mean? Like, because of the way those two character arcs went, I thought it was a bigger deal when, was it Deborah Winter? Yeah, Deborah Winter changed versus Brooke Adams.
Yeah, I think you were more emotionally invested in the Deborah Winter character than you were in the Brooke Adams. And I think part of that has to do with the chemistry between her and the lead actor. I think Sutherland and Brooke Adams, although they were okay, their chemistry wasn't as I think it didn't mesh as well as the Kevin McCarthy, Dana Winter characters. I thought of course, they're more in love, while we're kind of playing in this new 1978 film. He loves her, but you know he knows she's engaged, and they're like really good friends. But it still was kind of a weird dynamic. Even when he was telling her "I loved you," it still kind of sounded weird to me. And she told him "I love you," you know, before she passed out.
Yeah,
and he was telling her that it wasn't as emotional when she turned, like you said, than it was in the original. Because the whole thing that got me that was very powerful was when he kissed her in the original, and you find that he realizes that it's not her, which is kind of freaky. And in this film, it's more he's gradually noticing her changing facially.
Yeah. It's definitely, the impact was much more in that 1956 movie, which is kind of surprising, I think, a little bit, that it would be that big a difference, because it is a remake, and generally what you want to do in the remake is fix the problems from the original if you can. And I think they they at least attempted to do that, right? You liked how they started it. I wasn't as big a fan, but that answered a question that people had. And then how the pods got the people that answered a question, how people had all that stuff. It's fixing those problems. But then you get to that, how good the Dana Winter and Kevin McCarthy characters played off of each other, and the fact that we know from the beginning they are romantically not involved yet, but they want to be. And then you take all that away and then sort of bring it in late. And yeah, it's just, I see what they were trying to do. They just didn't do as good a job in the 78 version with that dynamic, that relationship.
Yeah, and I want to see if you agree with me on this. We talked about the epilogue and the prologue in the original, how it was added in there because the studio wanted a happy ending. I like the prologue. You said that you would have liked if they would just cut that out and have the original ending. Well, in this film, they actually do that. They have the original ending, and when reading this, the director, it was stated to shoot a happy ending for this film, and he refused to shoot it because he was afraid the studio would use it. And by that part, I do love the fact that this film ends without any score at the end, no cheesy the end. I mean, yes, we're in the 50s. That's kind of like threw me out of the moment from it with the end, but it gives you like just him screaming the pig squeal and it zooming into his mouth and then the credits roll, which I thought was an excellent way to end the film. I thought this film ended in a better way than the 1950s version.
I totally agree with you. And I didn't realize until afterwards, after watching them both, that was supposed to be the ending of the 56. And I think we talked earlier that would have been a better ending. And the director knew it. And the director gave us that in the 78. And honestly, it's maybe the best scene in the movie. Like that buildup of not knowing whether he's a pod person or not. And then you find out that was the turn right there that we didn't get with that we got with Dana Winter, right? And Brooke Adams didn't give us that because we were into it, like we were into the Dana Winter character, and when she turned, it was a big deal. Donald Sutherland's character got that turn, and that's the one that really takes you at the end. Yeah,
and I think it was on, it's kind of like I would say a flip-flop of the main characters. We got the good Dana Winter emotional pull in the first one, and then in this one it was more, even though Sutherland's character I think was the weaker of the two between Kevin McCarthy. They're both playing different type of characters though, but his character kind of surprises you with the emotional pull at the end with his turn into one of the pod people.
Yeah.
So with that, Cotton, do you have a rating for this?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Right before we get to the rating, I want to know 56 Invasion, 78 Invasion. What do you have? If you can only have one, which one are you choosing?
It's a difficult question because this is a rare I wouldn't say coincidence. It's a rare situation or scenario where both films are excellent. Both have their cons. I mean, we touched upon them. But if we're going to go with which I would go with the 50s version just because it's the original. Taking nothing away from the 78 version. I thought the 78 version was very, very good and done excellently, expands. But since it's the original, I would go with the original, and the original is good to me.
Yeah. And, well, the 1978 version is widely known as one of the best remakes that have ever been done. That being said, this is not a hard one for me, 1956. Oh. I thoroughly enjoyed every bit of 1956. And when I got to the 78 version, it wasn't bad. Like, this is not a bad movie. And if you want to go out and check out this movie, like, absolutely do it. It's a good movie. But it didn't do as much for me as that 56 did. Like, it just didn't pull me in as well. And so I ultimately just think overall, movie to movie, I think the 1956 version was just done better on more things than the 78 version.
So to kind of ask you, play devil's advocate here, if you had seen the 78 version first and then watched the 56 version, do you think your opinion would have changed?
That's a good question. I don't think so. I don't think so. I was really surprised. Like, I really liked the 1956 version. Like, it's hard to explain like how much you like something a lot of times. But when I sat down and watched that movie, I thoroughly enjoyed it, every bit. It was it was an hour and 20 minutes, and it was done, and every bit of it made all the sense in the world. And when it was done, I didn't think, oh, I needed more. I was confused about a couple of things like the bodies and whatever, but I didn't think I needed more. When I watched the 78 version and I got to the end, it was a good movie, but I was like, you know what? I needed less. I really needed less. There was too much in there. And I think a lot of it had to do with a lot of it was in that Leonard Nimoy stuff too. He was his character was a much bigger part of the 78 version than the psychiatrist character in the 56 version. Leonard Nimoy was really good in that, but it slowed the movie down quite a bit.
I also think too that with the characters of Nimoy and the character of Larry Gates, who played Danny Kaufman in the original, I think you kind of figured there's something wrong with Nimoy in the 78 version. Yes. While in the 56 version, even when Miles comes up to him when they're about to go into dinner, and Danny tells him, he's sitting there with the doctor, he tells him, yeah, you know, if I had 6 people come in saying that there's people, they think the people they're with are not really the people they're with. He goes, I don't know if it's something going around. He's like, is it contagious? He's like, well, I don't know. It could be. You know, so he kind of like leaves it open-ended, like, oh, okay, was that the real Danny at that time, or wasn't that?
I got the feeling that was the real doctor at that point, and sometime off screen he had been replaced. Yeah, whereas Nimoy seems like he was playing it from the beginning that he was the bad guy.
Yeah, and like the consoling of the woman, and even when they do the part where Miles is telling him, you know, hey, there's no body here in the basement. He's like, and I love the fact that when he opens it up, he's like, do you see it? And they're like, oh yeah, we see it. He's like, see, there's nothing there. And he pulls up the covers. He's like, he goes, you thought you saw it because it looked like a body in the covers, which, hey, it could have been, you could think at the time it could have been, but I mean, we all know it wasn't, but I mean, that was more realistic than Leonard Nimoy denying and trying to tell them it's all in their mind. And then eventually he just walks out to Donald Sutherland's character and says he believes him. Yeah. I know you too long not to believe you.
Yeah. And I will say one thing that we didn't mention at all, the wanton breaking and entering in both of these movies, just, hey, if you think that your friend might be a pod person, go ahead. You are fully allowed to just break into their house and kidnap them. Pick them up and carry them out while they're sleeping. Nobody cares. Don't worry about it. It was both movies did that, like where they broke into the woman's home and then carried her out. I was just
but the funny part is in the 50s version, like he carries her down the stairs in the same hallway her dad's in. So why the hell didn't he wake up? At least in the 78 version, he had those headphones on. He was listening to the TV.
That was one of the things I think, they fixed. They fixed some of those little issues. But okay, so my verdict on the 1978 is remake. I think it's a remake. It's based on watching that movie. I didn't have any need to see a sequel or find out more or anything. I thought it was a little bit slow. It was a little bit long for me. And it wasn't a horrible movie. It just, for me, it wasn't a great movie. And so I'm calling, for me, remake.
So thinking about it more and more,
You liked this movie a lot more than I did.
No,
I'm interested in
I think
seeing
I
where
liked
you're
it a
at.
lot more because it's not. This is your first time experiencing it. Me being, as being a film nerd, and we both are kind of film nerds, but it's inspired so many things. It's hyped up so much, and then watching it, several times, and then taking into consideration, the '50s version. Like I have never watched them back to back, which I did. And I started off with the '50s version like you did, and then went into the '78 version instead of going.
And I honestly think that's the way it should always be done. Like you should really watch the original first, unless you're not going to watch the original at all. Then don't worry about it.
But see, my opinion changed drastically because that's why I asked you that question. If you saw the '78 version first before the '50s version, would you have thought? Because that's what happened with me. I saw the '78 version way before I saw the '50s version, and that was maybe about 15 years ago when I saw the '50s version. The '78 I watched when I was a kid. So seeing that and then kind of cleansing my palate and my thinking, doing it again, I would have to agree with you that it is a remake. It's an okay movie. It was good, but it didn't necessarily need to be made. But I will give them credit for kind of following the original in a good way. But did it need to be made? No, it's more of a cash grab to me, even though it's considered one of the best films of all time, remakes of all time. It's still up there. It's still prominent. It has iconic scenes. But was it necessary? No. So it's a meh for me with the remake.
I mean, would you? So reboot would be our sort of the highest rating, and that would be like when you were done. Would you have wanted them to keep going with this story or some version of this story or find out more? Like,
see,
that's the hard part, right?
No, this is
because it's kind of a standalone movie. It's not really set up for that.
I'm gonna be honest. I think it's fine the way it ends. I don't need to know anymore. And this is the kind of thing where I got into The Walking Dead. I watched the first season of Walking Dead. I thought it was excellently done. Then I kind of watched
20 years later.
Yeah. Then I watched the second
Simpsons.
season. Yeah. Then I watched the second season. I'm like, okay, this is getting kind of, and just being realistically and thinking like, you're going to eventually become a fucking zombie. Like you can't keep living. It's just going to eventually happen to you. I'm sorry. It's going to eventually happen to you. So how long are you going to drag this out, this series? And I like the fact that this is over. I'm pretty sure, Vanessa Cartwright's character is probably killed. But it looks like they infiltrated. I don't really need anything to change, like to see, because, and being realistic, I don't know how you're going to overcome that unless you kill everybody, which is going to be very hard. I'm sure they were shipping stuff out already in this film, and in the 1950s version, they were going, even though they blockaded the town, you might want to see on that one how they would expand upon it. But I don't necessarily need it. I thought it told its story well, and I thought it ended it, especially the '78 film. It ended like, it's just a bad ending, which is good sometimes. Yeah.
It's just, I mean, I love the shock value of the '78 ending. They probably should have done that with the '56. The way the '56 did end, I could actually see a sequel to the '56 that was just straight up Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone action movie. You know what I mean? Like
Aliens?
Yeah, it would be like Alien is one movie, and then when you go to the next one, it's just a total action movie. It's amazing. But those are two totally different movies that are connected by just the alien and where it's happening and stuff. Like it was done really well. But yeah, I could totally see something like that, an Aliens style sequel to the Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where they have to go in and maybe it's a year later and this town's been quarantined for however long and they're still dealing with it or something.
Yeah, I could see that. But I mean, but do I really like earn for it? Not really. It's kind of
No,
what we talked about yesterday, like the John Wick films. Like if they don't make
Right.
another John Wick film, I'm not too.
No, I don't need to at all. I think, and honestly, the reason I think that is because of the way it ended, that softer ending. That's what makes me think that. If they had ended with him screaming in the street, kind of the way that they ended with Donald Sutherland screaming, yeah, there's no place for a sequel after that. Like you're like, this is where you end, and it lets you go off in your own mind about what's going to happen, and it doesn't set anything else up. And I think that's honestly, the 78 ending is definitely better than the 56 ending.
Yeah, but like since we're doing but the 78 version did not have to be made, so.
No, it really didn't, because they did just kind of go over the same old stuff. And I'm not sure what that filmmaker was exactly trying to say. You know, the first one had we talked about the McCarthyism or the government drones and, the different people having these different things. I don't know what they were trying to say. There wasn't like an underlying statement in the 78 version that you could feel like you could glom onto somehow. Like they just didn't have much at all.
Yeah, I think when you do a remake, you should have your own vision of paying homage to the original story,
Yes.
which is good, but also make it something into your own, like take it on as your own. And Kaufman did do that kind of with the ending, but it's still kind of the same story retold. It's not
He actually just reinstated the ending.
the original. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, he did add his own twist, because in the original, the guy he wasn't a pod person, right? And in the remake, he was a pod person. So he did add that twist. But I think he understood. He's like, that's going to be the ending that they should have done back then. I want to do that ending.
yeah.
So it was, again, it was the right choice. But yeah, I don't know that Philip Kaufman had anything to say other than, let me just redo the ending so that it's the right ending. Which you've talked to people, I've talked to people. Yeah, people would totally redo a movie just to make the ending the way that they wanted it.
Yeah.
But I think of these movies. So I do a radio show here in town about cover songs, and I'm exactly what you said just a few minutes ago about it's the same movie. You need to have your own vision. You need to have something with it. If I hear a Johnny Cash song and it's sung by Miley Cyrus, I need to know that these are like, if you're just going to do the exact same song, why? Johnny Cash already did it and he did it right. It was great. And you obviously agree because you just sang this song exactly like he did.
Yeah.
Give me something new.
A perfect example, something different, is the Chili Peppers rendition of Higher Ground over the Stevie Wonder version. I'm not saying
Yes,
there's better. I'm saying it's just two totally different songs of a great song. Two different sounds of a great song.
Yes, that's a good one, because like you've got the Stevie Wonder version, and then you have that song filtered through the Chili Peppers, and you feel the Chili Peppers in their version of the song the same way you felt Stevie Wonder in his song. It gets bad. It would have been really bad if you had felt Stevie Wonder in the Chili Peppers song. Then you're like, well, why are you doing that? You're the Chili Peppers. You're not Stevie Wonder. Why are you trying to be that guy?
Yeah, it's if I wanted to hear it, I would hear it from the original artist. You know, the best covers and the best remakes are done with their own style. I mean, even though, like I'm saying, this film is considered one of the best remakes, but like the best stuff is something that is taken from the original and makes it into your own. Like another great example when you brought up cover songs, Gary Jules' version of Mad World compared to the version of Tears for Fears, totally different style of a song, but it's iconic. And to be honest, like in that case, I think Gary Jules' coverage of the song is bigger than the Tears for Fears coverage due to the portrayal in Donnie Darko, Gears of War, the video game, just that mainstream pop it got from hearing something that was old, but given a new, slower pace to than the original.
Yeah. Well, and bringing it back to the Invasion of the Body Snatchers, The World's End. A lot of people didn't like that. That's the third movie in the Palmetto trilogy that Simon Pegg and Alex Winter did. Not Alex Winter. I'm messing this all up. But
Alex Winter, Bill? No, yeah,
Bill.
Bill
That's Bill. Bill and Ted. Yeah. So anyway, that
Nick Frost.
Nick Frost, Alex. Hey, okay, Alex Winter, Nick Frost. They could be cousins.
Frosty Winter.
But that movie is what we're talking about. If you watch that, it is absolutely a remake of the 1956 version. You just don't know it until you get to the end. But the way that they bring everything through that movie, you don't necessarily know people are different, but they go into one bar and it's exactly the same. It's like an Applebee's. And then they go to the next bar and it's an Applebee's. It's like the exact same as the bar before. And they just keep doing this. And so you're like, well, this is weird. And so it's like that, got that mystery aspect that the original 1956 had. And then by the time you get to The World's End, at the end, everything's revealed. And there's aliens and there's, arguments and there's all this stuff. And it ends completely different, of course. But I've seen that movie like 3 or 4 times. And I never knew it was basically a cover of Invasion of the Body Snatchers until I watched the original.
I never heard it described that way, but the more and more you think about it, it totally is.
Because you don't think about it. You really don't. The movie is made in such a way that you're not thinking about it, but they go back. It's this one guy, he goes back to a small town and he's getting everybody to go do this thing, but like people are being weird about it and he's talking to people and they don't remember things that he remembers or they, and he's just like, you just get this odd feeling until it's all revealed in the end. And, but again, that's the cover song that you don't realize it's a cover song until you hear the chorus. And you're like, wait, that's the same words there as this guy did 20 years ago.
Yeah. And that's the whole artist thing. You put your own spin on stuff to make it still resemble the original in some aspect or keeping the core in some aspect, but putting your own spin on it and making it better.
Yeah. And again, I wasn't thinking that at all until I watched until I watched these 2 movies. And it actually gave me more of an appreciation for a movie I actually already liked. And a lot of people don't.
I actually like The World's End, but then again, I'm the type of person that likes Ghost of Mars that Tony makes fun of me about, but to each their own, But
all right. So I think we got 2 remakes. I think you got like a remake plus. I remake minus maybe.
Yeah, and that's fine. But this was a good one to do our first episode on because the 78 version is highly regarded. It's still one of my favorites in terms of watching. The 50s one is now, since I watched it again, is going to be in that rotation too. which is having me rethink my 31 Days of Horror now.
It is absolutely so good, and anybody who's listening or watching, it's 100% worth your time.
Yeah, but this was a great first episode to get out of the way, Cotton. I know we're going to talk for an hour, but no, it's us too, so we're going to talk forever.
Yeah.
Do you want to plug anything?
No, not well. I am going to put something out on Sadistic Penguins in the "You're Not Gonna Like This" column. Then, of course, we've got Bleacher Bunch podcasts on all your podcast feeds. I will be having a baseball rabbit hole coming out on the main feed in about a week and a half about the minor leagues. Go in depth on that, down the rabbit hole. But that's it. And if you see Bleacher Bum Bible book in my name down there, I wrote a book. It's on Amazon. Search Bleacher Bum Bible book. It is Bible verses and Cubs stories, and it costs $6.66. It is not a Bible book.
It's hilarious. I bought my copy. I have it actually in my room right now because I was reading it. Cotton has a very distinct taste and a sense of humor, and me and him are on the same page in our humor, which is why I think I get along with him so well. But it's really, really good. Check it out. On my end, we just did an after show podcast yesterday detailing Who's the Worst, where we took movie characters and compared them. We went with the Rose versus the Jenny from Forrest Gump, Rose from Titanic. We had some good ones there, including Anton Chigurh versus Hannibal Lecter, where we went through the pros and cons of each, their similarities. We gave our opinions. Then we asked ChatGPT what it thought. Did it agree with us or not? But it was actually a fun episode, something different that we didn't do for our 99th episode. We released that yesterday, and then next week we're going to have our 100th episode with myself, and Cotton will also be a guest on there discussing.
I'll make a guest appearance there. Yeah.
So really looking forward to that, and we'll be back here in about 2 weeks after we drop this episode. Hopefully you guys liked what you heard. Give any feedback and let us know what you think about it.
Yeah, really. This is a brand new show. We don't have a perfect format yet, so let us know what you think and how you think we could. I'm not saying we're going to do it. I don't do a lot of things that people tell me to do, but I always take things into account and then see if I can modify what I'm doing to get closer to it, I guess.
Cotton is a rebel. That's what he's trying to say. He's a rebel. Now, yeah, let us know, and then we can see what we can make the show better, because we're always trying to get stuff better. But
Absolutely.
With that, Cotton, signing as Yumper signing off for Cotton. We'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Thanks for listening, watching. Be sure to follow, and we'll see you later.